You might have just bought an entire town of zombies in DayZ, and you just thought, hey, you know what? I have a couple cuts. I'm going to bandage. But you didn't actually look at the bandage before you did it. So now you have a blood infection, and you don't know how to cure it. You might have just spawned in and decided to sprint in whatever direction, not knowing that sprinting actually lowers your hunger and thirst much, much faster. You might have begun watching and forgotten to subscribe. You might have been thirsty and turned your back whenever you were going to a well. To be honest, the number one real problem solver here is just to be careful and pay attention to what you're doing. A really good common one would be replacing water in a water bottle with gasoline. Somebody could give that to you, your friend that you just grouped up with, that you don't know for more than 10 minutes. He might have given you gasoline. It's in the same font and color as water, so you can easily mistake it. There are no differences. So you could easily die just from that. You need to find some disinfectant, some iodine, something to disinfect your bandages before you use them. Otherwise, you might end up with a blood infection, which also requires iodine, disinfectant, whatever to get rid of. And naturally, the longer you have the sickness, the harder it is to get rid of it. That goes for anything. That goes for just being sick in general. That also goes for the blood infection. The sooner you treat it, the faster and easier it'll be for it to go away. If you're going solo, it's a lot harder to constantly be on your guard. You're going to have to let it down at some point. It's better to run a duo or at least a trio so that somebody can at least stand guard at some point while everybody else is getting water, cooking, whatever the case may be. In case you're confused between the differences, whenever you cook food, cook meat, smoking preserves the hunger a bit. It doesn't give you any thirst. It allows it to keep for longer, and it gives you a little bit more hunger. Cooking it keeps the water content so you get hunger and thirst, but it can go bad a little bit quicker. And to tack on to the cooking mechanic, if you think that house is safe and secure, if it has a fireplace, it also has a chimney. So it is readily apparent to anybody outside, anybody nearby in the vicinity that you are indeed cooking, okay? So keep that in mind. You're not just being careful and quiet as possible. You are visible because there is smoke coming out of that chimney, and it might become a problem. So you want to cook as fast as possible. Maybe even have a cooking pot rather than just throwing everything onto the grill, because the cooking pot allows you to cook a lot faster. And if you stick water in the cooking pot, it allows it to boil instead of just cook or bake or whatever the fuck. So if you want to have hunger and water filled from food, add some water to the cooking pot. If you're playing a hardcore server and you have absolutely nothing around you, go kill a chicken or another person. Get their bones and get a stick out of the forest. You can make a long spear, and that thing cuts people up like fucking paper, man. Not even joking. It has pretty good reach on it, but if people know how to play against the spear, then you might be fucked. So I honestly just carry both the bone knife and a bone spear as well. I carry both, one for short distance and one for long range. That way, if they get up and get up close, I can use the knife if I need to. Because after a couple, after a few lunges, it's safe to say they know what you're doing. Harvesting bones also helps you make bone hooks. So if you just make a bone knife and you get a bone hook, then you don't even have to look for food. You can just take that, make a fishing rod. You can make rags out of, or a rope out of clothes. So you just need 6 rags and another 6 rags, so 12 rags in general, and make rope. Combine the rope with a long stick, get a fishing rod, and start digging for worms, and you'll have fish, and you don't even have to go into town anymore. Of course, you'll be vulnerable when you're fishing, but maybe just don't fish on the coast, or if you do, do it in like a secluded area where you're not in the open, okay? Instead of killing zombies, you could just lead them into a building and run outside and close the door with all of them in there and just keep them in there instead of killing them. That way, it's not readily apparent to anybody nearby that, well, somebody's in the town because zombies are dead lying around everywhere. If you lock them inside, well, there'll be somebody else's problem when they open that door. If you want to get the drop on somebody and be as silent as possible when you're moving, consider making cloth shoes, cloth wrappings for your feet. It's the same audio source as your actual barefoot sound. So if you just throw those on, you'll be much harder to hear than just wearing shoes, and you won't get any cuts because you're wearing something on your feet. That way you'll be able to sneak around. If you have a gun without any ammo, you might be able to bluff with it. So, if you like to use voice chat and maybe have a little bit of role play, the next time you roll up on someone, you might just be able to get the upper hand without having the upper hand. So just hold them up, say, hey, I'm gonna kill you unless you give me everything you have. Tell them to stand there, hand, tie duct tape around them, whatever you have, and boom, you're out of there easy. When you begin driving a car, make sure you're shifting it correctly. If you constantly redline it, you will ruin the car. So just get it up to like maybe 80% of the way to the red line, 90%. The second you start hearing that high sound, that high pitched dinging, like sort of just that sound that you hear, the grinding, you need to you need to switch gears or slow down because you will damage the car. There is a symbol that pops up, but generally switch as soon as you hear that sound. I read something the other day. Apparently in DayZ, you always spawn facing north. So keep that in mind. That might help you orient yourself. If you're facing north and the ocean is to your right, well, now you know which direction you're going. If you turn around and it's on your left, you're now going south. Instead of making a base, it might be more worth it to throw up I don't want to call it a tent. I don't remember the name for it. Just like a little tarp storage thing. A shelter, I believe it's called a tarp shelter. It doesn't have to be out of tarp, but getting all those sticks is a huge pain in the ass. However, it is helpful for a little bit of storage. It stores 100 slots. So you can make a ton of these, and they're much less visible than an actual base wall, a base gate, a watchtower, whatever. And if you're on top of your shit and you know what you're doing, you can just refold them and move. You can move your entire base, if you want to call it that, from one place to another. You can be mobile. You can't do that with a traditional watchtower wall base. If you struggle with the PvP portion of DayZ, rest assured, there's actually a PvE portion of the player base. It's pretty small considering, the nature of this game. However, it does exist. Um, One of the popular ones is called middle-aged gamers. I guess that's their nature. That's what they do. They're getting older. They don't want to play competitively. Anyway, that's one of the more well-known servers, PvE players. However, there's quite a handful out there, but that would be my suggestion because they're nice, they're friendly, and it's relatively easy. There's lots of things to do in the server. They've packed it full of stuff, but that's just generally going to be the case because there is no PvP element, so they've got to make up for that. Anyway, keep that in mind.